Recording in progress.
Hi there, Dr. Alexandria Rosa here. I want to welcome you to this three-part video series entitled How to Ignite Your Metabolism. So, more than likely, I'm guessing if you're here and watching this video series, then you have noticed that some things are changing in your body. And maybe what had worked for you in the past is really no longer working for you anymore. And you might have some stubborn symptoms like weight gain, inability to lose weight, fatigue, anxiety, mood imbalance. Maybe you are pre or post menopausal, you're 35 and up. Maybe you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, high triglycerides, insulin resistance related to diabetes or pre-diabetes. And we're going to get more into insulin resistance later on. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, chronic inflammation, or a number of skin conditions as well. Maybe you've kind of been noticing these. Well, these are actually a cluster of conditions that when they occur together, they cause metabolic syndrome. So I don't know if you've ever heard of metabolic syndrome, but that is really a dysfunction of the metabolic system. So that's why we have noticed so many issues within ourselves and our metabolism because there are some things that are going wrong. And this cluster of conditions, like diabetes, like high blood pressure, like high cholesterol, like PCOS, all of those together term metabolic syndrome. And so a lot of women have this, but don't even realize that this is what is causing that inability to lose weight and the weight gain and all those changes. It's really all of these things together. And actually, women with metabolic syndrome have such a higher risk for heart disease and all the complications that come with it. Heart disease, diabetes, the complications are endless. It affects every piece and part of your body, and it's very serious. And if you've had any of these conditions, you more than likely feel confused or frustrated by the education that you've received about them or the lack of education, especially if you're a woman. You probably have felt that lack of education around it. You might also have found that diet and lifestyle recommendations that you've come across are really unrealistic for your busy life, your demanding schedule, and they haven't worked and really leave you feeling deprived, hopeless, isolated, or overwhelmed. Maybe they're not respectful of your tradition or your culture or your religion. There's so many factors that go into this when we are thinking about ourselves holistically and when we are trying to heal and make changes in our lives, it goes so much deeper. And so that's where so much of traditional healthcare has really failed so many of us, and where my place has become to really step in and provide that care that women deserve to really transform healthcare and how it's delivered to you. And so I wanted to bring you this three-part series to really dive into this really specialized area of concern for women that we have, because we are dealing with metabolic syndrome. We are dealing with insulin resistance. We are post menopausal. And just those things in itself are very challenging. So, again, we covered briefly metabolic syndrome. I want to talk about insulin resistance next. So, we kind of talked about how that PCOS and the diabetes and pre-diabetes, those are all really related to insulin resistance. So what the heck is insulin resistance? So you have a hormone called insulin that is produced by your pancreas. So the whole job of insulin is to help tell your body what to do with the sugar, how to get it into your cells, the sugar that you eat. So the typical diet that most people are eating is very high in processed carbohydrates. And so when your body breaks that down, it turns that into sugar. So your pancreas releases insulin, and the insulin tells your body to take that sugar and put it into your cells. Whatever is left over of that sugar gets settled into your body, goes into your liver, or goes and gets stored as fat. And so the issue is with so much of traditional diet advice that's been out there, and I know I've been victim to this as well. They tell you eat 4, 5, 6 times a day. You've got to keep your blood sugar levels stable, and you got to eat to keep your metabolism up. And if you really, really think about it, does this make any sense to keep eating all day long? Because all you're doing is having your pancreas secrete insulin all day long to combat all of this food that you're eating all day long, you're just pumping out more and more insulin. So when is your body ever going to be able to be sensitive to this? That's what happens. Your body becomes desensitized, right? If you keep blasting it with something, at some point you're going to just become numb to it. And that's what happens with our insulin levels. We are so used to pumping it out all day long, every day, that our body just never gets a chance to get used to it again. And so its effect on our blood sugar lessens. It becomes desensitized to that. And then we continue to have high blood sugar no matter how much insulin we're putting out, our blood sugar levels stay high. And that's where it becomes very pre-diabetic and diabetes when you have high blood sugar levels all the time because the insulin has no effect on that anymore. And that can become very problematic down the line in regards to immunity, in regards to heart health, cholesterol. We're going to get into all that as this series goes on. But those are just some of the things to look out for and why we really need to flip how we are thinking about our traditional ways of eating. And there are natural ways to increase your sensitivity to your own insulin without having to take artificial insulin, right? Because that's what happens. We get prescribed pills, we get prescribed insulin, and it's a never-ending cycle. Pills and insulin are not meant to cure diabetes. They are only meant to mask the symptoms. And all that happens is doses go up and up and up. So we need to focus on ways to reverse that, to become more sensitive to our insulin levels, to bring our blood sugar levels down naturally. And so on the third part of this series, I'll really get into intermittent fasting and how that really is the key to unlocking your metabolism, increasing that insulin sensitivity naturally. So there is hope, there is a way, but we need to be aware of the problems first, of the physiology, of the what is happening in our bodies first, so we can fully understand this and fully understand the benefits of intermittent fasting and some other things that I'll teach you about later on. So when we talk about being pre and post menopausal, for example, so if you're a woman 35 and up, you're heading towards menopause. Every single day, your estrogen levels are dropping. It's normal. It's a normal part of life. It's what happens. But what is not so okay are these symptoms that we start to have around those dropping estrogen levels. And so many of our body parts have estrogen receptors on them, our heart, our ovaries. So when we start to have decreases in estrogen levels, those areas can start to be affected. So you might have noticed some changes in hair growth. Maybe hair is falling out, maybe texture, maybe you growing hair in places where you never used to grow hair before. That is some of the changes that are going to occur. Sweating, hot flashes, mood changes, body changes, weight settling into different areas. Most typically, you're going to see that abdominal weight gain, the weight right around your waist. That is going to be one of the most notable things. And that for women is really the most dangerous type of fat or weight to gain is right around that abdominal area because that's visceral fat. And that visceral is just another fancy word for organs, and it means that the fat is growing around your organs. It's very serious. It's highly inflammatory, leads to a lot of inflammatory, leads to a lot of cancerous growth as well. Lots of research done on that. So we really want to do things that can inhibit that visceral fat growth, and intermittent fasting is an amazing way to combat that naturally, and we're going to get into that later on. You might be also noticing changes in your cycle, changes in your period. So those are all things to be aware of in the pre and post menopausal stages, and those have huge impacts on your metabolism. And it's all driven by hormones. That is the hugest thing, is how to really get our hormones in check, how to do things naturally, because our hormones are the direction givers of our body. They tell our bodies what to do with different things that are coming into our bodies and what direction and what to do. So we need to be focusing on the hormones, we need to be focusing on our insulin levels, and we need to be fixing those modifiable risk factors that we have, like the high blood pressure, like the diabetes, being pre-diabetic and diabetic, type 2 diabetic, our cholesterol levels. There is so much that we can do prevention-wise to reverse so much of that and decrease all of our risk factors. So that is the video for today. I am always open for questions, comments, and suggestions. I hope you have found this video helpful. Part 2, we're going to be talking about adrenal glands, stress, and hormones, and how to support yourself naturally. So we're going to get into that in the second video. So as always, please feel free to reach out with comments, questions, and suggestions. I know I already said that, but I look forward to seeing you in the next video.